Okay, so this chapter is going to talk about Die Familie, which is a chapter of the Deutsch Komplettbuch. So let's get started, okay? So the start of the book has die mundige Arbeit. Wie heißen sie? Wir haben 10 Fragen, we have 10 questions that will be on or similar to the Leaving Certificate Oral Examination for 6th year. So normalerweise, wie heißen Sie? Ich heiße, wie alt sind Sie? Ich bin 17 Jahre alt oder ich bin 18 Jahre alt. Wann haben Sie Geburtstag? Ich habe am 28. Januar Geburtstag. So when you're saying Geburtstag, ich habe am, which is an them, dative case, and your date, Geburtstag, Geburtstag at the end. Haben Sie Geschwister? Ja, ich habe einen Bruder und eine Schwester. So Bruder is a der word. So in the accusative case, it's einen. And note that any adjectives to describe your brother, ich habe einen alten, or großen, or dicken, or fetten, or lustigen Bruder, it'll all be Ian. Likewise for Schwester, die word, eine große Schwester, eine ältere Schwester, an older sister, eine jüngere Schwester. Okay? And then we'll go through 6 to 10 as we go along. Okay. So ich habe einen Bruder und eine Schwester, I said that. Sie heißen Mary und Jon. Okay? Ich habe einen Bruder und eine Schwester, die Mary und John heißen. So, die is an example of a relative clause. So, we'll go through that later on. Wir verstehen uns gut. Okay, that's an important one. Note that wir verstehen uns gut, it's a reflexive verb. So, wir verstehen uns gut. If you want to say I get on well with, you would say ich verstehe. You cross off the en. So for all German verbs, you take off the en and you add on ich, I for ich. So ich verstehe. Uns changes to mich. So ich verstehe mich gut. I get on myself with, literally. Ich verstehe mich gut mit meiner Mutter, meinem Vater, meinen Eltern. No, when I said mit, it takes a dative case. So mit meinem, em, ending E-M-E-I-N-E-M, Vater. Mit meiner, M-E-I-N-E-R, for father. Mit meinem is for father, as I said. Mit meiner is for a mother, because it's a D word. And mit meinen, M-E-I-N-E-N, for Eltern. Aber wir streiten uns über die üblichen Sachen wie Fernsehen, Hausarbeit und so weiter. Okay? Und ich glaube, das kommt in jeder Familie vor. Okay. The rest are kind of okay. Meine Mutter ist verständnisvoll und hilfsbereit. Okay. We have here again. Wir streiten uns über Taschengeld, Fernsehen und Ausgehen. Going out. Okay. We'll do it in a second. Is that ich glaube, es ist nicht so gut, der for boy, die for a girl, ältester zu sein. And the opposite of ältester, jüngster. Okay. Denn the book doesn't have it here, but you have to have a comma before den. Den is an example of, it's one of the two ways in German of saying because. Den does not affect the word order, which I've discussed in one of my other videos. So you have the subject afterwards, ich, and the verb. So denn ich muss auf meine Geschwister aufpassen. Okay? The verb, ich muss auf meine Geschwister aufpassen. I must look after something. Okay? Meine Eltern verstehen, dass ich unter viel Stress stehe. Okay, das is a conjunction that, comma beforehand. It's a grammatical rule if you leave it out. Das, here you'll see, sends the verb to the end of the sentence. So again, we'll be going through that in chapters, and you can reference my video on German word order for that. And then the rest is, ich habe kurze, lange, blaue Haare. Just very simple things. So the more difficult questions are, gibt es ein Vorteile und Nachteile dabei? Ja, ich muss auf meine Geschwister aufpassen. Es ist nicht so gut, der Älteste zu sein, denn ich muss auf meine Geschwister aufpassen. Worüber streiten uns? Worüber streiten sie sich? So, wir streiten uns über die üblichen Sachen, wie Taschengeld, Fernsehen und so weiter. Okay? So, that is the first page. Okay? So, as you'll be doing in class, you'll be doing lots of reading comprehensions, Leseverständnisse. So what is important here is a concept called intelligent reading. Intelligent reading means that, firstly, you're reading for an objective of point. So for example, you have questions here, ordinary and higher level. So you look at the questions, prior to reading, so you focus in on what you want to target. Secondly, for example, here we'll go through the first. No, we'll go through the second one because it's a little bit harder. Meine Eltern haben lange Arbeitsstunden. Ich muss also viel mithelfen. Ich muss auf die Kleinen aufpassen und die Wohnung aufräumen. Ich muss das Mittagessen und das Abendessen kochen und am Wochenende gehe ich einkaufen. Okay, so let's just assume I don't know. I need to find an answer in that text, but I don't know all the words. I don't know what mithelfen means. I don't know. Let's just say Arbeitsstunden. Okay, I should have picked a more difficult paragraph. So when you come across words you don't understand, they're normally a collection of smaller words you do understand. So for example, if you know the word mit, which is help, and helfen is to help with something. Arbeitsstunden, just like we didn't know that, but we knew the word Stunde means hour. And we knew Arbeit was, okay, the Arbeitswoche, that's another word we know, our working week. So we work plus hours is working week. I'll find another example here. Okay. Es gibt einfach nicht so viel zu tun. Dann leiden meine Noten und ich werde von meiner Lehrerin und von meinen Eltern ausgeschimpft. Das finde ich total unfair. Okay. So, weil ich so viel tun muss, habe ich wenig Freizeit. Okay. Weil is the second way of saying because. Remember when I said denn keeps the verb in second position? Denn ich muss. Weil is like das. It sends the verb to the end. Okay. I'll go on a second about talking about word order, subject, verb, time, manner, place, where the verb is always the second idea. So we have an example here. Weil ich so viel tun muss is the first conceptual idea in a sentence. So therefore the second idea in a sentence is always the verb. So that's why you have ich instead of ich habe. Okay, but back to this. Okay, there is simply a lot to do. Then my notes or my grade, note in our grades. Note in Germany, we don't have A, B, C, D, or the new or H1, H2, H3, H4, 5, 6, 7 that are going to be in Ireland. They have like 1 for A, 2 for B, 3 for C, D, 4 for D, and down. And I am something by my parents and teacher. So on the basis we know that, but we don't know what ausgeschimpft is. We can kind of guess from the context what it means. Like given out, given extra work to do, something negative, something that fits the narrative of the story. So that is by intelligent reading. You're scanning through the text. Note as well, for example, here in the higher level, when you're doing your exam, it'll tell you the line number. So for example, when you get this in the Leaving Cert, each sentence will have a line number. So it'll say the answer here is between line 2 and line 5. So you're reading only within that small section, and you're using the concept of intelligent reading to actually make sense of the text, even if you don't know some of the words. You're just stringing the narrative along together. Okay, so for ordinary level students, or students taking the ordinary level paper, again, the first part is, okay, you're matching the paragraph with the heading. Simple. You're finding examples of this translation exercise. Third one, you're matching the sentences using den. Okay, it's very easy. And then you're selecting the correct preposition. Again, all of the answers are within the text. You just have got to read it, and it's nearly a matching exercise. You find älteste in the text, and you find what preposition to have. That's the answer. Higher level, a tiny little bit more difficult, whereby when you're asked the question in English, you're answering in English. If it's asked in German, you're answering in German. So, wie alt sind Imas Geschwister from paragraph 1? Okay, so we have here, ich bin der Älteste in meiner Familie, mein Bruder Tobi ist erst 80 Jahre alt und meine Schwester Susi ist 4. So the answer there is Susi is 4 Jahre alt. So, see the way meine Schwester Susi is 4. Once you learn German word order, know how to use it, you need to be able to manipulate or change the sentence slightly. So you wouldn't write down meine Schwester Susi ist 4 because you're lifting the text from the paragraph. You just have to change it slightly. So her sister will be ihre, I-H-R-E-R, or Susi's Schwester ist 4 Jahre alt. The second one. 1b, wie hielt immer zu Hause mit? Paragraph 2. Meine Eltern haben lange Arbeitsstunden. Ich muss auf so viel mithelfen. Ich muss auf die Kleinen aufpassen und die Wohnung aufräumen. Ich muss das Mittagessen und das Abendessen kochen und am Wochenende gehe ich einkaufen. Before I do that, we have an example here of am Wochenende. So the first idea in a sentence is time. After time, the second idea is the verb, so that's why you have gehe ich instead of ich gehe. Okay, so we now know that she helps a lot. She must look after the young children and she must clean the room. And she must make the dinner and evening meal. Okay, so all you have to do then is that ich muss changes to sie muss. So sie muss viel mithelfen. Sie muss auf die Kleinen aufpassen. Sie muss das Mittagessen und das Abendessen kochen. So again, all the answers are there. You just need to manipulate slightly the actual context of the sentence to make sense. Okay, so I'm going to just discuss one thing moment. Okay, we have two words here. Mathearbeit. Okay, so the example, Mathearbeit. Okay, just say you didn't know that word. German words that are connected together are called compound words. So for example, the first word here is Mathe, and the second word is Arbeit. Okay, Mathearbeit. So we have a case here where it's like, it would be die Mathe anyway, but it's die Arbeit. So how do we know if it takes what the audacity use? It takes the gender of the last word. Okay, so in class recently I would have had the example of der Milchmann. Okay, so whether we have Milch at the start and then the second word or the last word is man. Because man is a der word, the gender of the last word in the compound word is going to be the das word. Okay, so the next page here, we have German word order. Okay, so the rule is the verb is the second unit of a sentence. Okay, so here we have meine Freunde und ich gehen jedes Wochenende in die Stadt. Okay, so meine Freunde und ich, which is wir, we, that's the subject, who's the sentence about. The second idea is the verb. Okay, so gehen. So that all must be the second idea. So from the video or from class, we would have went through SVTMP, and you would have seen other posters for TVSMP, MVSTP, whereby you can rearrange and restructure the sentence, but the verb must always come second. So for example here, in den Sommerferien arbeite ich an der Tankstelle. Zu Hause gibt es manchmal krank. Okay, so the idea is that the verb is always in the second sentence. So just very quickly, I want you to try and do 2A, B, and C. So put the following sentences in the correct order, beginning with the verb in bold. Okay, so 5 Personen in meiner Familie sind. You probably can do it straight away because you've conditioned yourself just to learn very quickly. But I just want you to go through. Es sind 5 Personen in meiner Familie. Okay, C. Ich am Samstag das Mittagessen koche. Ich koche am Samstag das Mittagessen, or putting time at the front. Am Samstag koche ich das Mittagessen. I find it helpful sometimes when writing sentences that if you label, if you were to put S above the subject in a sentence, V above the verb, T before time, and M before manner, and P before place, so you can actually see your errors on the text prior to giving it up to the teacher or instructor for correction. Okay, the same thing applies if you're talking about das perfecte past tense. So here we have jeden Tag muss ich 3 bis 4 Stunden lang lernen. Okay, if we were changing it in the past tense, as in every day I learn 3 to 4 hours long. Jeden Tag habe ich 3 bis 4 Stunden lang gelernt. Okay, so it doesn't matter what tense you have, past, present, future, it's always going to be the same. Okay, so the part of the exam that you are going to be focusing on, and what's the bulk of the chapter learning, is that whether you're ordinary or higher level of a class, you have a dialogue or opinion pieces where for the higher level students you'll be expected to write or know at least 7 or 8 lines about beschreiben Sie kurz Ihre Familie, describe your family, wie komme ich mit den verschiedenen Familienmitgliedern aus und wie helfen Sie zu Hause mit. Okay, so the expectation is that you'd have 6 or 7 lines learned off or manipulated accordingly on each chapter going forward of the book that will give you an array of vocabulary and phrases to use depending on whatever topic comes up in your exam, so you're well and fully and thoroughly prepared. Same thing for ordinary level, where you have a little dialogue. The demand is a little bit less, but regardless, you would still need to know the word order structure to continue it successfully. Okay, so the rest is listening. I can't really do that now. We'll do you do that in class. The very same thing here. There's a text about Arnold Schwarzenegger. The questions are in English. You answer in English. You give the paragraph there. True or false. Connecting up. Okay, here we have an example of, for example, a compound word. Okay, this is definitely asked for the ordinary level paper, but not the higher level, but higher level would need to know regardless. So for example, the word ice is ice and kalt is kalt, so ice kalt. House is house and tierra, house tierra. Zeit is Zeit and plan is plan. So then the gender is from the end. Okay, so we'll just quickly do here. So, okay, answering question. Why is the life of Arnold Schwarzenegger's home sometimes compared to the army? In paragraph 1. Okay, so it's a little bit longer text, but I'll read it first and we'll go through it. Zu Hause bei Arnold Schwarzenegger, dem berühmten Schauspieler, ist das Leben manchmal wie bei der Armee. Dali, 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 hören Sie morgens üblicherweise um 7 die Stimme des Vaters. Seine Kinder Catherine, 19, Christina, 17 und Patrick, 15 und Christopher, 11, stehen dann sofort da, vor dem Frühstück, joggen sie allen eine halbe Stunde, dann muss sich jeder eiskalt duschen, das ist ja gut für die Gesundheit, dann müssen die Kinder die Zimmer aufräumen, Schuhe putzen, den Müll rausbringen und erst dann gibt es Frühstück. Okay, so you have to scan through that and figure out how is the Arnold Schwarzenegger family's home, like the army. Okay, so we don't know all the words, but we'll just go through words we know. Okay, Joggen. We know Joggen. We know Frühstück is breakfast. Halbe Stunde, half an hour. Gut. We know gut is good. Gesundheit. If you sneeze, Gesundheit, good health. Okay, Zimmer aufräumen, clean room. Schuhe, something about shoes. Putzen, I don't know what that means. Müll, I know it's trash. And that's all I know. So even or any student, you could just string that narrative of sentence together and try to make up your own type of answer. 9 times out of 10, you would be correct in your hypothesis. Okay, so that's all I want to do in that section there. Okay, so in word order again, we have a thing where the verb goes to the end of the clause. So if you're using, for example, wenn, als, and weil, it's easier, actually it's the same. If you were to start with a sentence that ich bekomme viel Hausaufgaben, or ich spiele Sport, denn es ist gut für die Gesundheit. Ich spiele Sport, weil es gut für die Gesundheit ist. Okay, that is whereby you have a main sentence and you have what's called you have your conjunctions, and then the word order is manipulated depending. You can also have that second part at the front of a sentence, but then that complete sentence or phrase will become the first idea in a sentence. So, wenn ich gute Noten bekomme ich 50 Euro. Als ich ein Kind war, spielte ich mit Barbie. Weil ich Deutsch schwierig finde, habe ich Nachhilfe bekommen. Okay, so and a phrase where we've had, as I say, ich spiele Sport, weil es gut für die Gesundheit ist. Weil es gut für die Gesundheit ist, spiele ich Sport. You're just putting it in a different position. Again, in class I would have color coordinated blocks to aid you along with this, but I also have them in the video if you want to cross-reference anything I'm saying. So the difference between wenn and als, they both mean when, but wenn is for use in relation to an event or an objective stance that has happened. Als is time related in relation to your own personal psyche. And that's really it. The only thing you really need to know there is weil, push the verb to the end. Obgleich, O-B-G-L-E-C-H is although, push the verb to the end. Das, push the verb to the end of the sentence. All three take a comma before it. And then for the other ones is und, aber, oder, sondern, denn. Den puts a comma before. So und is and, aber is but. Then is because. Which one did I leave out? I can't remember. It doesn't affect the word order. Okay? So, here we have the time, manner, and place. Ich komme jeden Tag früh 7 Uhr an die Schule an. Okay? So, if you have more than one time expression in a sentence, you begin with the most general question and finishing. So, a lot of these will be reinforced in the classroom. So, I know I'm going through them at speed, but again, the video is supposed to be theoretical. So, like in every chapter, you're going to have this ending here whereby die Familie for the students in order level. Again, you have a letter, it's given to you. You start it off by selecting the appropriate word to fit into the context, and then you have bullet points where you have to explain, describe your family, how do you get them. So ich habe zwei Brüder und zwei Schwestern. So the plural Schwestern, SCHWERTERN. Ich komme mich gut mit meinen Schwestern aus. Zu Hause helfe ich viel mit dem Abendessen mit. Okay, meine Eltern sind streng. Wenn ich schlechte Noten bekomme, wenn I get bad notes, muss ich nachsitzen, I must repeat. Wir streiten uns über die üblichen Sachen. And an ending, choose. Okay, so it's very straightforward. It's very, I won't say simple because, as I say, kind of like everybody has a different ability and everybody needs to be appreciated for what they can or cannot do because everybody has different talents. But it's quite learnable. The higher level, much like the higher level for junior certificate, you have a letter. You just need to figure out the questions that are being asked, the context, the style in which the questions are being asked, and answer them accordingly. So, for example, here, ich finde, Sie erwarten einfach zu viel von mir. Ich weiß, wie lange ich es noch aushalten kann. Wie kommst du eigentlich mit deinen Eltern aus? So that is the person talking about erwarten is to expect, my expectations. Erwarten, so take off the en. Ich erwarte, meine Eltern erwarten zu viel von mir. They expect too much from me. So the question is, how do you get on with your parents? So that's the trust of the letter. And again, the rest is just kind of like pieces of vocabulary that you would need to know. Ich bekomme nie genug Taschengeld. Okay? Wenn ich schlechte Noten bekomme, bekomme ich Hausarrest. Okay? So, and then the rest then is just, let me go back to the start of the chapter for you. It's just kind of just general vocabulary. Just hang on one moment there, as I say, there's just, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a document that has a list of useful vocabulary that you could use also for discussing this chapter. I just need to find the Sprachschatz vocab. Okay, super here. Okay, so if you're talking about family, okay, so here we go. So, ich komme meistens gut mit meinen Geschwistern aus, nur manchmal zanken wir uns über die Fernsehen, Klamotten und so weiter. So, I get on mostly good with my brother. Okay. Ich bin leider ein Einzelkind, if you're an only child. Ich bin also ein bisschen verwöhnt, I'm a little bit spoiled, aber ich würde lieber Geschwister haben. Okay. So, ich bekomme sehr gut mit meinen Eltern aus, denn sie sind sehr verständnisvoll. Okay. So again, kind of like just random phrases. So here, number 8. Weil ich dieses Jahr viel lernen muss. Again, that's an example of you have the weil at the start of a sentence, the verb goes to the end. That becomes, in its essence, the first idea of the sentence. The second idea is always the verb. Muss ich nicht viel im Haushalt helfen? Okay? So, the first one, there's one more. Okay. Again, okay, so I'm family strict. Okay. Ich glaube, meine Mutter ist strikt, aber fair. Meine Mutter ist streng. Okay. Again, if you want to talk about disagreement, sie stimmen miteinander über Themen wie Alkohol, Trinken, Rauchen, Ausgehen, Geld, war mir nicht so gut. Okay, so that's more or less the video and the grammar that goes along with the Familie chapter of Deutsch Komplett.